I think we just had like a total timeline skip or something. I swear to God, we were just live, and then Lily was like, "We're not live." Like after I had been talking for several minutes, and I have no idea what just happened because it said it was live on my end. So
We're good
if
now.
anyone out there saw us go live, and then like, what timeline are you in? Let us know.
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay, cool.
This is so weird. All right. Well, last time I got kicked out of my own live, so I'm not surprised. Okay. Well, now I got to start over. So welcome back. This is part 2 to our original first Stranger Things kind of synopsis, but also kind of what's going on in our reality and some crazy anomalies that are tying into real life events and what are affecting people in a very real way. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the finale of Stranger Things, we are going to talk about it. We are going to talk a little bit about the new movie Avatar. It's okay if you haven't seen it, and we won't give any spoiler alerts about the movie Avatar, just referencing it.
Maybe so you won't.
Oh, okay, well, maybe Tyler will. I don't know. But I'm going to give you a list of the things so you kind of, all of you watching, have an idea of what we're going to be talking about tonight. So I definitely want to get into the reference of Montauk, actually spoken in the last episode of the season finale, which is huge. I want to talk about mind hijacking and the voice of God technology referenced in the final episode. I want to talk about collapsing of timelines, merging worlds and realities, referenced in the final episodes. I want to talk about the musical reference, the power of within, the power of children. All of these are referenced in this show in the last few episodes. And then the reason I want to bring up Avatar is because this movie is the first of the series of 3 that references spirituality in a way that is different. So they're bringing in the dark side. So even other spiritual civilizations can have those souls that have gone kind of to the dark side and have limiting beliefs and anger and fear. I want to talk about the significance of that. Time travel, time jumping, weird anomalies going on in our reality. Memory loss is huge right now. The earth chakras are activating like crazy, planetary activation. I bet Lily has something to say about that. Gaia has been coming through a lot in my sessions, so I want to talk about Gaia. Jessica has something to talk about with Bigfoot. I want to talk about pocket civilizations, and then Tyler said there was something he wanted to talk about as well. So before we forget, what was the thing you wanted to add?
Sounds like we're going to need about 4 hours there.
We can go through some of this faster.
So actually, I'm going to share my screen really quick, and this pertains to Lily, but it is, no, not that one. Entire screen. Sorry, I gotta figure this out. Window.
Yeah, the last episode came out New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
Stranger
My
Things.
family nerded out, and we watched it on New Year's Eve. Left the party early so we could watch it.
Yeah, it was really good, and I think it actually ended on a really positive note.
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited to talk about it, because it's not scary.
Last season, I feel like was scary. Last season freaked me out a little bit. Well, it got pretty graphic at times.
It really did. It really did.
There were some actual rumors that they may have a surprise alternate ending show tonight. So I don't know. There may be airing another show tonight, but I don't know. We'll see. We have to stay tuned.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I heard it was just a documentary, but I don't know if that's true. Tyler, what were you going to share?
Well, I don't know if this is going to work. Let me see.
He's got a.
Do you see this? Do you see this galactic thing?
Did you just add this thing? This? Is that you?
Can you see the galactic thing?
We see your email.
Oh, okay.
You have to share the whole. You have to share a different way. I think this happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I don't ever play. I never do.
Share your whole screen.
Okay, sorry guys.
You should be sorry, Tyler. Come on now.
Entire screen. No, I can't do it right now. I don't have it set up. I have to restart Chrome because I never use Chrome either. Okay, so forget it. Anyway, it is So you wanted to talk about the tag program, right? Well,
yeah.
Lily, so I really wish I could share my screen. Maybe you could pull it up, that link,
Yeah.
Lily, and share it. Anyway, so she was part of, or she wasn't, but at her school, she was like, the program at my school was called Galactic.
Yeah.
And we looked it up, and it's their version of the gifted and talented program, but it's called Galactic Education, Gifted Education Galactic, and they have galactic screening procedures, and the whole thing deals with our galactic theme, which I find even more interesting than just a standard tag program, because obviously I don't have to explain that. Why would they choose the name Galactic unless they're not actually screening for some sort of a program that would involve intergalactic travel?
Right. If you want me to
That's
share, I can.
crazy. Yeah, share it. Oh,
I think you have to add it.
No, you just hit the plus at the bottom.
Well, I have it. There we go. Okay, so I moved.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I moved in
wow.
sixth grade. So my original school, it wasn't called that, but whenever I moved to Hazelwood in sixth grade, that's what it was. The Talented Gifted program was called Galactic there. And so I was looking it up the other night, and they give you like the whole screening procedures of it too. And yeah, there were some other things that were just like super interesting that they were talking about. Let's see, gifted screening timeline. So they give kind of like a whole breakdown of how they screen kids and what they do with them. And I just thought it was super fascinating. But yeah, basically it's called Galactic. So how much more obvious can you be?
That's crazy. And that's even up to this year. It said 2024, 25.
Yeah, 26 even
Oh,
on there.
25, 26. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then there's like an observation form. So this is how they kind of like gauge, highly curious, advanced learner. And then they would take the kids to another school 1 day a week. So they would pick them up and take them to another school. But yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. It's called Galactic.
Right.
Whoa.
That's crazy. Well, you guys know how I feel about standardized testing. Like I know they're testing our children so they can put them into categories of intelligence that they need. And they like those children that are labeled with Asperger's because they are highly intelligent galactic channelers, and they have the technology that they want. And so it's crazy. That's pretty ballsy though, putting galactic on the title there.
Well, I think they just rely on the fact that no one's gonna connect those dots, and if they do, they can't prove anything.
It reminds me of the Magic School Bus, just taking the kids to the moon, taking them to the galactic,
right,
out to the cosmos for some of these programs.
Wow.
And to tie this in with, well, obviously this ties in directly with Montauk and the Stranger Things, of like how they're obviously always seeking out these gifted children. But I found it interesting in the final episode, the sheriff, the dad, he gets a job offer to literally go work for Montauk in the final episode, like that. I mean, they're just straight up telling you,
right?
And that was really interesting in my opinion.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. I was like, holy shit, I even rewound it and played it again, and my kids didn't get it. And my husband wasn't interested. So I was like, oh my God, did you guys hear that? And they're like, Montauk, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, guys, like, I wanted to talk to somebody about it, like right then and there. I didn't have any like phone a friend at that point. But I was like, oh my God, they literally just mentioned that. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, because I felt like that was their like way of, the speculation that's been going on this whole time, that this was based on Montauk, like we talked about in the first one, but they changed the name and the town. And then at the end, he gets this job in Montauk. So number one, could there be a spinoff? And number two, or was that just their way of just letting us know? I don't know what your thoughts are.
Probably both, as far as that goes.
I think the creators actually did say recently that they based the whole thing off of Montauk. They did come out and say
They
that
did.
recently. Yeah.
They did come out.
They were going to actually name it Montauk, I think. Like that was in the original title of the show, and then they, I guess, whenever it went to Hollywood, they changed it.
Right. You're like, we can't be giving away too much here.
Right.
Yeah. I just feel like the fact that they said it and his job offer was there. I just, someone just said, wait, where is it? Someone just said they almost fell off the couch when they heard that. Like, seriously, that was me. I was literally like looking around the room. Like, did anyone else hear that? And all I have are the younger kids with me, and they just don't care. Like, they don't have any idea. And I was like, oh my God, I got to talk to somebody about this. So I wrote it down. I was like, to talk about on part 2.
Yeah.
The strangest thing, and we're talking about Stranger Things, but some of the Stranger Things, because I've actually been to Montauk recently. It was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I guess. I went with a group of Montauk survivors up to Montauk, and hearing him say that he's got a job offer, he's heading up to Montauk. I thought it was interesting because at Montauk, if you go up there, I was expecting to see like some kind of evidence that the Demogorgon was recognized in Montauk, or even the radar tower or something. Nothing is recognized around Montauk. It's a very, I'm going to say kind of, dare I say, high class. Really, there's old money up there. It's like the Hamptons, literally. And you go up there, and it's almost like a stain on the community up there. They don't talk about it from all the kidnappings they had throughout the years. I mean, for decades. Nobody talks about it. And it's kind of like shoved under the rug a little bit. And I think now, after this season, the last season of Stranger Things, maybe there's going to be a uptick in people going up there and wanting to visit Camp Hero, where we went. And I know, Sherri, you had mentioned that you wanted me to mention the security guard incident that we had up there.
Please. You mentioned it already in the last video, but I don't know who's watching this that hasn't seen the first one. I think it's a story worth repeating.
Oh yeah, this is wild. Okay, so I'm actually very good friends with 2 of the resident, I call them experts. Nobody likes to be called an expert in the cryptid field, right? But Brian Minnick, he has a YouTube channel. It's called Montauk is Strange, and he wrote a book, a very thick, big book called Montauk is Strange. George Norrie, he went on Coast to Coast, and George Norrie had his book and dropped it on the table during the interview, and it made a loud thump. It's a very detailed, decades of research book into the Montauk Project and Camp Hero and Montauk in general, with anything you can imagine that has to do with Montauk is in his book. So I was talking with him, and they give us the rundown to all this stuff. He was there with us in Montauk. He and my friend Long Island Bigfoot Mike. Okay, I was just talking with them today, as a matter of fact. And their videos that they're putting out, where they have home video footage from the 1990s, where they're actually exploring Montauk, getting chased by the security guards, and in the end arrested. By the way, a lot of people who used to go there exploring got arrested. Okay, because this is a former Air Force base, has been used for decades. During World War II, as a matter of fact, they disguised a bunch of the buildings to look like a fishing town, a fisherman's town, where actually, like, there's churches, there's houses and stuff. But you go inside these churches, it's gymnasiums, and it's like the barracks for the soldiers that live there. But okay, so when I was there with James Rink and, like I said, some of the Montauk survivors. And I'm not putting anyone at risk here. I'm not saying anyone had gone to the radar tower. You're not supposed to go into the radar tower. Okay. But we were in the area. We were in the vicinity. And some of us were not so close. Some of us were a little closer. And we noticed that a security guard pulled up. And so some of us with some street smarts decided to dip out. Okay. And if you know what I mean. So we left, we went into the parking lot, and and the man got out of his car, and we walked back up there after a few minutes. And it was wild, because I saw a Caucasian man with a ponytail get out of the car, like an older gentleman. And then some other people that were with us saw an African-American man get out of the car. And it was a little confusing because we're like, well, maybe you thought maybe he was like, we're just trying to make sense of what had just happened. He was running us off, by the way, telling us to get out of there. But we got back to the house we were staying at. We took a poll amongst every single person who was there, and it was literally split down the middle. Half of us saw a white, Caucasian, older gentleman with a ponytail. The other half saw an African-American man get out of that car. We were at the same exact location, having the same exact experience, seeing two different people. And that's something that is perplexing to this day. I was talking with Brian and Mike just earlier today, and we are still confused over that. And we've never been able to make sense of it other than it being at Montauk. That's where they did these strange experiments with, the interdimensional, what do they call it in the last season, the last episode, I think, of Stranger Things, season 5. The older kids call themselves interdimensional space travelers.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's exactly kind of what was going on there. It was like this interdimensional overlap that happened right there at that moment in time.
Or maybe you weren't at Montauk, but you were inside somebody's head.
Ooh. Tyler. I don't know. At this point, I have no idea. Could be.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but that's really interesting, the interdimensional aspect. I do think that, well, Sherri put the comment up that said energy masking.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been not even a human. I mean, just for, let's just have fun with it. It could have been some form of an entity or something, and it projects this overlay, right, that allows you to see whatever it wants you to see. But I don't know, maybe it caters differently to people, and that's really interesting. I mean, there could be any number of things with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which kind of ties into what I wanted to bring up next, which is, whether you want to call it voice to God technology, voice to skull technology, there's a lot of different words for it. Their reference in this movie this show about hijacking the mind, and how they do that. And through that, this pathway is through Vecna and his world. And I think I have a picture. Oh yeah, here, where like, this is a terrible depiction, but basically, this is in essence a lot of the ways voice to skull technology works, where we have these lines of energy, which is more like frequency that comes from satellite, AI technology, underground, through the walls. I mean, everywhere. It's quantum. And it emits frequencies that can connect. And the more vulnerable you are to the connection of this frequency, the more your mind can be hijacked. And that's how voice to skull technology works. And what's concerning about that is, in my sessions with children right now, there is a heightened level of negative thoughts. It's in a frightening number and a frightening level of children telling me that they are hearing really negative thoughts, feeling dark thoughts. And I actually use it as a teaching moment with my children the other night when we were watching the show with Vecna, and how he was controlling the children. Even when I don't have a visual where he had the children trapped in his world, in his mind, in his consciousness, with the thing in their mouth, kind of like a Matrix type of
plug-in.
And I was like, this is how minds get trapped. This is a soul trap, and they can feed information to you and make you think any way you want, negatively, detrimentally, any way you want. This is real, and it was actually very helpful for my kids, and I didn't do it in a way to scare them, but it is I really feel like it's a teaching moment to explain how this technology can actually work, and Vecna in this show happened to be a way to explain it. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, and sorry, this reminds me of a few things I've been taking notes. For one, I think chemtrails have something to do with what's happening right now.
There's a lot.
I mean, they're going nuts here in Sedona, but I think obviously that works in tandem with the towers and everything else. But I think that also weakens you and makes you sick. Therefore, you're more susceptible because you're at a lower frequency. But I had a session with Laura Van Tine once. I was going through something, and There was a specific individual who was kind of, saying some stuff about me and like just attacking me and slandering. It was just getting over the top, and it didn't even seem like it was so out of character for this person. So I went into this session with Laura Van Tyne, and she takes you on this like regression, like it's almost like hypnosis, like you go on this journey. And I ended up in this underground base where this individual was literally, I saw this individual, like another version of them was in a chair with this device on their head that was literally like mind controlling them, and it was transferring to the actual host on the surface. So it was like another version of him was sitting in a chair being completely fed all of this stuff, right? And then like tampering with the mind. And I don't know if that was just a metaphor or if that's really happening. But it was showing me that this person is not acting of their own volition at this point. Something else is in the driver's seat. And I think that's the case a lot of times for some of the things that we see when people are just acting out or just having those negative thoughts and they don't know where it's coming from. There could be any number of things happening that might even have to do with like cross-dimensional stuff where another version of you is under mind control and it bleeds through and it confuses you as well. So there's a lot to look at there.
There's a lot to unpack here. And that's what the other thing is, how they were referencing the merging of the two worlds and how this void was being created. Actually, I think I found that image of it as well, where they have this image online where they were trying to explain like the underworld, then there's Vecna's mind, and then there's our world, and how this void, this vacuum was being created so that our world and his world would merge and essentially take over our world, which is a form of collapsing timelines. And so I believe that there are negative timelines where this is and has occurred. And that's what they're trying to do right now with us, except it's not happening. It's not successful because there's too many of us waking up. But they're trying everything like they can, like Tyler said, with the chemtrails and other things. And we talked about the weird clouds last time in our last session that we spoke about. But it's like another reference of them exposing what they're trying to do. And collapsing of timelines is happening all around us every single day because there's so many infinite timelines happening.
Yeah. And I want to bring up one last note I have, and then that's all I have to say on this subject. But on the last episode of Stranger Things, the whole last hour was like basically dedicated to getting to finally witness the children living in peace. Finally, like after all these seasons of this trauma and torture, it seems like they went out of their way to give you a full hour of watching them be able to enjoy life and experience the happiness and stuff that they missed out on in their childhood. But also that it ended up in 1989. Now there's a lot of online theories that we had some form, that we were literally on the cusp of like world peace in the 80s. And there was some form of a reset that happened in the 80s, and it kind of reset, everyone was mind wiped. So no one had memory of the fact that we were about to reach world peace, but there was a reset that happened, and basically we kind of shifted timelines, and that's why we went down this trajectory where we are now. But if there's any truth to that, it would make a lot of sense that they depict that in Stranger Things, like the way that ended, like everything was over and there was like world peace and there was nothing to worry about. In fact, they were kind of bored, it was just I don't think that was by accident. I think they were hinting at some sort of actual reset that occurred in the 80s. And you would never connect those dots unless you had saw those theories online. But I have a book right here. Actually, this book, Shining the Light, specifically talks about a major reset that took place in the 80s. And no one remembers it because once that happens, once that's shifted, you have literally no memory of it, kind of like the Tartaria thing, right? But echoes of it eventually bleed through, and then we can piece it back together. So I think that was kind of showing us at the end of Stranger Things that we did actually achieve peace in the 80s. And maybe that's why so many people connect with the 80s, because a part of your soul knows that we were actually happy back then at some point, you know? So I don't know. It's just a theory, but I'd just be curious to know what you guys think about that.
I think we were happy until and I'm not saying we weren't happy after this too, but the Challenger explosion. I'll never forget. That was the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me as a kid that I can remember.
And it was a
that
false
Challenger
flag
explosion.
too, because all still alive.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
And it was
But
very traumatic.
What year was that?
I want to say that was 1987, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, or 86.
Okay.
I was just a little kid. But I was a kid back in the 80s.
Right. Yeah, that's super interesting.
Not trying to date myself here. I don't want people to know how old
I mean, I'm an 80s kid too, and the 80s were awesome. I don't know about you guys, but like I spent my days like going through the creeks and no one knew where I was, especially not my mom. You know, no one knew where we were. Lily, what are your thoughts?
Well, I have something kind of well, I can't speak to the 80s because I'm 90s, early, brand new 90s baby. But there was something else that really caught my attention in the last season and in the last episode was I've been trying to figure out kind of how to articulate it. But something that Tyler said just reminded me of it. What you saw during that session of somebody else being manipulated, and it was controlling how they were acting in this reality. And that could have been a metaphor, or that could have literally been happening in some form or capacity. One of the main characters, Will, he has the ability to, he was possessed essentially by Vecna, right? In the beginning, he was possessed and it was controlling him. And then he gains the ability to kind of go backwards. And as he steps into his power, he can tap into that and control that. And I don't know, he was also kind of used as a spy between these different dimensions. And I feel like that's happening a lot in positive ways and negative ways. I feel like for like the Starseed envoys, like our star families can kind of, if we have a higher aspect of ourselves that, we're the boots on the ground, right? So we're kind of sending information back up to our star families for the white hats or positive beings, if you will. But also you have these other timelines, and whenever they take you into the programs, I feel like they could use other versions of you to spy on you and manipulate you in this reality. Hopefully I articulated that, but I just found that really interesting, and it really stuck out to me.
Being able to look through someone else's eyes.
Yeah.
I think that's the case all the time. In fact, I've had many sessions with people who have told me, be careful when you're looking into certain people's eyes, because there's something else using their avatar to look through their eyes and gather information or data mine or whatever it is. And they can even even one person used to call them code stealers. They're stealing your codes, like your keys and codes to the Akashic records and stuff. So I do believe that there are entities that literally work through people's eyes, and for good and bad. I do agree with that. But yeah, has that come through in your sessions, Sherri?
Oh my God, absolutely. And I hate using the word NPCs because it's overused and it's ambiguous, because there's like 15 different ways to explain what an NPC is. It's not just one thing. But essentially what's happening right now is like the hypnotized aspect of humanity are in essence NPCs, because their souls are not in control. And so they are kind of hypnotized and tapped into a Vecna mind or the voice to skull technology mind. And it's this spiritual war that's taking place. It's like this tug of war effect. But the cool thing is that I'm seeing an amplification of disruption. And so a lot of the children that I work with are being told are disruptors. And I didn't quite know what that meant. Actually, when my son was born, my middle son in 2012, they told me he was an anchor. I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. I was like, what does that even mean? Now I understand, because they were anchoring in a certain frequency and laying the foundation for this newer generation, which would be, my daughter's generation and younger. They're disruptors. They're the ones that come in and disrupt the frequency bandwidth and break down the technology with their power. And so in the show, Will was what Lily was just kind of alluding to. Will was saying he was chosen because he was the weak one, and that's what he was told. But in reality, the children are the most powerful, but they're tricked. So many adults, all of us at some point, have been tricked with illusionary programming and many other technologies to believe something, where some hijacking of the mind occurs. And then we tap into this belief system or limiting belief system, and then we follow that narrative, and that's a timeline. But that timeline is literally collapsing in itself right now, and we're seeing the NPCs a lot. Like those people, the NPCs are becoming a lot more evident than ever before. I mean, they're all over my town. I could pick them out like as if they had like a light bulb on their head. So easy now. Like it's crazy how obvious it is now. Like there's a clear divide between lower frequency densities of consciousness versus the higher densities of consciousness. And I don't think that they can hide anymore. The ones that are like pretending, it's harder for them to hide it.
Yeah. I think that's why my son gets in trouble at school all the time, because he calls people out a lot. He's a disruptor, 100%. And I also wanted just to touch on something really briefly. I noticed that in Stranger Things, they do a lot of remote viewing, okay, and a lot of remote influencing as well. And from a military government perspective, I was actually trained over a decade in the military style of remote viewing. So I have some experience with all of that. And I see kind of where they were going with it, with the Project Jedi, Project Stargate, all that kind of good stuff. And I see how they are utilizing that within Stranger Things, the entire, all the seasons. And and I think that's really interesting that they're actually doing that. They're showing you exactly what our government is capable of, by the way. Okay. And the remote influencing is the scariest part, actually. And to be able to see through other people's eyes. Okay. And that is something that I've actually been trained in. And that's why I don't teach remote viewing, y'all. Okay. Because it is very dangerous. And the person who trained me did an entire long vetting process on me. Okay. To make sure my heart was in the right place with all this. And before I even knew what remote viewing was, I was being checked out by the head of my research team. Okay. And I didn't know it. But I'm very selective as to like the targets that I'll take, the people who I allow to task me some of these targets, and to know exactly how to task me in targets, to hit these targets, as I like to call it, because it can be very intrusive into people's lives. It can be very just intrusive in general. And if I have, I don't want to get into people. I don't have time to get in people's business. I don't want to, but I know how, and I could, and I've been trained to do it. And I know that if I've been trained to do it, there's no telling what all people in our government programs, our military programs are trained to do. And don't even think that they don't have remote viewers, highly trained remote viewers on the field, boots on the ground, in wartime situations, you name it. I have been told by numerous people in the military, active duty, that they have remote viewers assigned to their units and things like that. And they are able to remote influence. There's actually a movie called The Men Who Stare at Goats. And they show the men, the people in these programs trained to make a goat pass out. Well, that's kind of what they were doing, but it's actually way worse. Okay. And they can remotely cause people to unalive, if you know what I mean. I'm not saying I've been trained in that, but I know people who have.
You totally can. And remember last week in our part 1, or whenever week it was, I talked about the show Institute, and it's you can see it through Apple, but I can't remember who created it. And they literally take children into their program to remote influence using ESP, and they time travel them into a scenario where something catastrophic was about to happen. and they make that person drive off the road and they die, or they stop them from doing what that bad act, and their excuse for capturing these innocent children is because they're sacrificing these children to save the world. And that's how they're presenting it, by using remote influence. So it's exactly what you're saying. There's a lot of shows that allude to it. And one of the craziest things that a child has ever said to me, to this day, still gives me chills. And I've said it at many presentations and in my books. I asked a child one time why he wouldn't look in the eyes of people. And he said, because I can see their demons. And to this day, it still gives me chills, because they're basically telling you what we are talking about. The children, when they look at us in our eyes, they see everything. They can tell if you're lying. They see your entourage of good and bad, and they can see through your soul. It's the pathway. So if children know better, they're trying to tell us something. Be careful who you connect with.
Lily, you were going to say something?
Well, it just reminded me of kind of the NPC talk, and this kind of reminds me of like the Matrix. Whenever we were in Canada, I had kind of this experience where I became like hyper aware of the Matrix, and I could see certain, I don't know if you'd call them NPCs walking around in the town, but it was like they could easily become Agent Smiths. Where like, just like in the Matrix documentary,
It is.
Where they can come in, the dark side, if you will, or the dark players, whatever you want to call them, can come in and kind of take control and then manipulate or spy or do whatever through these NPCs, if you will. And I became kind of hyper aware of that. It was like very surreal. And I was basically told, like, kind of go undercover, like don't make a ruckus, just kind of shield yourself while you're walking through town in that moment. So I just thought that was interesting.
That, Lily, that is why my circle has become so tiny. I feel like I don't even have that many like close friends, and the ones I have are like not online and stuff for the most part. Okay, because I started noticing that's true. Have you guys ever seen that movie? It's called Fallen with Denzel Washington, and I'm not. Sometimes it's the people that are closest to you sometimes can end up being NPCs. You don't think they're NPCs. They don't know they're NPCs, but they may be on a lower vibration. I'm not saying I've never been on a low vibration. I'm sure I have plenty of times. Okay. But these entities, I have literally watched entities jump from person to person, just like in that movie called Fallen. So if you guys haven't seen that, please check it out. That is a documentary as well.
I need to check that out. But you're right about that, Jessica. Like, one of the things that I learned in my session over and over and over again from children is that they will go through others to get to you. Period. It's like, and that it's very simple. If they can't get to you, they will get to you through others, which is why people like us have very small circles. Because unfortunately, throughout my life, I lost count of how many people have betrayed me, hurt me, done something horrible, turned on me in the last second. And sometimes I feel bad because I'm like, I don't even think it was them, but now I can't trust them. So we're not friends anymore. Things like that, because they will go through others to get to you. And even more unfortunate, they will go through your children to get to you. And Laura Van Tyne even talks about how her daughter came to her in her room one night and said, Mommy, the shadow beings are telling me that they are going to hurt me so that I can get to you. Or in some way, fashion, or form. That's what they said to her. And my daughter was attacked severely psychically for most of her life. And I know it started when I started speaking publicly. So they were going through her to get to me. So that's how they do it.
And this reminds me too of, I went through a period of my life. My awakening was basically being attacked and figuring out how to overcome that and find the light through the darkness, and it got more and more sophisticated, the attacks did. But it was in this situation in my real life where I had basically fallen for one of those illusions, right? I was in a situation that was not of my highest good. And I didn't see it at the time, but I had a roommate at the time that was like, couldn't understand how I didn't see it. And she was like basically trying to open my eyes every day and help me realize it, right? And I just like, I thought maybe, you know, if I was like under the spell. Well, I had an attack that night where I would have like these, you know, demons and entities on top of me. I would literally tangibly see them, physically see them in my room. And there were shadow people, and sometimes they appeared in different forms. Well, one night it appeared as my roommate, the one who was trying to snap me out of this spell, right? And it was her. And I would have, if I didn't understand the complexity of this war and what they're capable of, I would have assumed it was her, but I knew better. And I knew what they were doing was trying to turn me against her, right? Make me think that she was the enemy and she's the one attacking me. So whatever it was presented themselves as her to try and literally break that connection, because she was the one who was actually going to free me from all this, you know? So it's like that's a perfect example of them not even working through someone, but using someone else's image. So you start having bad thoughts about that person. And you think, oh, that's the enemy, when really that person might be your way out. But you're going to, you know, so there's two sides to that coin.
That's so true. I really love that you brought that up, Tyler, because nothing is ever absolute. There's always more than one explanation for everything, which is why I wanted to talk about the movie Avatar. I don't know if you guys have seen it, the third installment, but I just think it's so interesting that I'm going to show a picture again here, how they depict their world. So, you know, there's no greenery. It's just ash. It's fire. And they've given up on their god because of many reasons. I don't want to spoil too much for those who haven't seen it, but these same species of beings are in turmoil, and they have gone to the dark side. And you can even see by their statues. And they do basically witchcraft, and they summon demons, and they are very dark beings.
Black magicians, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And what's crazy, even more crazy about it, which is what I wanted to share, is this is right now what I think we're experiencing is a convergence of timelines. We've talked about this a lot, but Atlantis is definitely a convergence of timelines right now, where we are reciprocating, mirroring. The same thing is happening again with technology. And the fact that they brought in these, you know, let's say the scary humans bringing in the technology. Well, now these already powerful dark beings using black magic are introduced to these machine guns, and now they're essentially unstoppable. And I just thought, oh my God, I'm watching this movie. And again, I'm like, this is insane. I need to talk to somebody about this, because the accuracy of what's happening in our world and the parallels, to me, they are really going out of their way to depict these things in the movies right now. And I choose to believe that it's to awaken a lot of us to the truth of what's really going on. I don't know what you guys feel about that, or if any of you guys watched the third installment.
I think like we said, I think last time, start watching all of these movies as documentaries. But to me, when I saw that, they were definitely blowing the whistle. Not blowing the whistle, but they were definitely exposing and highlighting the black magic and the occult rituals and stuff that actually occur on the world stage. And that's how they manipulate reality. And of course, in this movie, it was a tribe, but that also reminded me of the book Thea Uber Prophecy. Samuel Chong always talks about this, but I've read the book, and it talks about one of the very early civilizations on this planet, maybe Atlantean, pre-Atlantean. They were all basically one unified race. Well, specifically when the Avatar, how there was a breakaway group that basically gave up on their god and became a demigod and started, you know, practicing the occult magic and stuff. That's basically what was described in the Thea Uber Prophecy. What happened? There were certain individuals who didn't agree with the way of their leader. So they literally broke off and took people with them and started their own tribe somewhere else with their own rules. And it was the same race of people that just couldn't agree on things. And became warring factions. But above that was stuff working through them, manipulating all this stuff, like puppeteering the entire thing. So I think that was also in that movie Avatar, was showing us what actually happened here on Earth with the ancient tribes.
100%. I agree.
Yeah.
But Jessica or Lily, I'd love to have you guys chime in.
Yeah, I have not seen the third movie. I saw the first Avatar, and so I haven't gotten that deep into it, but I will. Okay, I've been busy watching Stranger Things, but I had to really catch up on Stranger Things recently. But it is interesting because like I know in the first season they've had all their giant trees cut down, the trees of life and stuff, and it's like I guess that's when it started to crumble and they started losing hope. You know what I mean? And it's just another reset. We have all these resets, and I don't. It's just so symbolic of where we're at today. You know what I mean? And I work in cryptids. That's what I do, y'all. I do it for fun. It's a hobby. That's what I talk about on my YouTube channels and stuff. I'm a now I'm a full-time cryptid field researcher, pretty much, and a YouTuber. But it's almost alarming at how much black magic plays into even the cryptid field, and us having this uptick in like wearable sightings right now and things like that. There's a lot of witchcraft going on, and I don't know if it's in our government, if it's backwoods cults. I mean, it's like secret societies, a lot of secret societies out there, y'all. And they are, I'm just saying, this is alleged. I don't know. I'm not a member of a secret society. Okay. And if I was, I don't know if I could tell you. I'm just kidding. No, I'm really not. But we talk about that a good bit because we're trying to figure out like where all these sightings are coming from. And not only is it like secret space program, but we have to factor that in too with what I do and where I go. Cause I spend a lot of time in the mountains, especially the Appalachians. And there's a lot of witchcraft going on out there. And it's just part of it. I don't know. I guess it's always been around, but like I've noticed it a lot more the past few years.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to add to that. That's a message that I've been getting a lot, especially like the last year or so. All the dark magic. I was shown a vision of just all of the dark magic and rituals going on around the planet, and just it's created this massive, just dark cloud of illusion and distortion. So I think there's a lot of that going on, and we're transmuting it, clearing it, kind of poking holes through the veil and letting the light shine in from all of this. I've seen, I've been shown visions from Atlantis of when it started going downhill, these dark portals, like I guess the elite people started being very greedy and taking things into their own hands, and they started opening these dark portals and inviting things in, and it just kind of took everything over. So I was shown that with Atlantis. I think that's also something that's going on today. And one other thing I wanted to touch on with the dark magic is I thought it was really interesting in the last episode of Stranger Things, whenever that other planet was coming to crash into Earth, they called it a spell. I thought that was really fascinating that that's the terminology that they used. And then whenever 11 stopped Vecna and the planet stopped merging, they said she broke the spell. That just really caught my attention.
You're so right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it was
that's a great, which
good connection, Lily. Yes. Oh my God. I got to go back, and I remember that, but I don't think I caught that. Wow.
You guys think about also like CERN and all these large hadron colliders and the large ion colliders. I just had a pretty wonderful conversation earlier today with my friends Brian Minnick and Long Island Bigfoot Mike. We were talking about like Brookhaven Labs, talking about Stranger Things in Montauk, and we have all these Department of Energy buildings all over the United States. And under each one of them, I think I talked about Oak Ridge Laboratory last time I was here, and in the Large Ion Collider, where they actually work in tandem with CERN on a project called Alice, of all things. And and so we have these Department of Energy buildings, just like they portray at Hawkins Lab, right? And it's like CERN. They're opening portals. These things are all over the place. I'm pretty sure. I can pretty much guarantee there's a Large Ion Collider underneath each of those buildings or somewhere nearby. There's definitely one at Brookhaven Labs. There's definitely one in East Tennessee at Oak Ridge. There's rumors there's some in Georgia. They're all over the place. But what are they doing with these? And, there's that video at CERN of like a ritual going on in front of that statue out front. And it seems to be, I'm not going to call it witchcraft, but they were definitely wearing robes and It was in front of Shiva, the destroyer, right? And
Right.
so you got to wonder, like, why are they doing that at CERN? Why are they doing that? What kind of portals are they opening?
You know what's interesting, Lily? I don't remember because I have no memory at this point, and I want to talk about memory at some point because there's a reason. We talked at some point. I don't know when, or where.
What? I forgot.
About dimensional tears. We were talking about dimensional tears at some point, and how we were seeing like that there's tears in the dimensions, and the animals are catching the tears that are current. Oh, I was on your Patreon channel. That's what it was. I was explaining that because I was talking about animals. And what I've been getting in my animal communication sessions, and I'm going to tie all this in, it makes sense. I promise you. That their animals are showing me that there are a lot more dimensional tears occurring in people's homes, just all over the place. And if you think about just a thin piece of wallpaper with no drywall behind it, and you just, cut it through and it's just like a nice slit, there's these dimensional tears occurring all over the place. And through these tears are coming out beings like we've never seen before, shadow beings, dust, smoke. And when I was on your Patreon, Lily, we were talking about this, and the animals were saying that there's this mist or this cloud. And I've been getting more information on that since that Patreon through my sessions. And it ties into what you just said, that I've been shown by the animals that it's almost like a microwave effect. And there is a lot of like dense fog, or whatever word we want to use, that they're admitting through the trails and lots of other ways to close this up, right? So I had a session with a woman the other day, and her Arcturian family came through, and this Arcturian literally went up to her and forehead and put her hand on there, and she was opening up her third eye. And she looked at me, and this Arcturian told me that the one way humanity, now take it or leave it, this can resonate with you or not, red light therapy is one way we can open our third eye right now. And I've almost fell off my chair because I've been doing red light therapy for probably over a year, but I've been told by my guides to do it 4 to 5 days a week religiously, to make time for it. So I have been doing it 4 to 5 days a week, and I'm making time for it. And my gifts have like quadrupled to the point where like I almost can't even like sit in my chair anymore when I'm doing sessions, because I'm just having like full out of body experiences. And when this Arcturian said red light therapy is one key to opening our pineal, I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
Like I didn't say that to the Arcturian. That would be super rude. But that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Have you guys heard that?
I mean, Lily just was like 30 minutes before we went live, she was like, I was looking at my red light, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to try that red light. I don't know why I don't use it more, because I was using it every night. And then she's like, yeah.
I was like, you need to start using red light therapy.
But then you were just talking about getting the red light mask for your face. Yeah. So, which
is that
they have.
You use, Sherri, the mask?
No, I go to a salon that has like a full body one, and it only takes 15 minutes, which is why I can do it 5 days a week, because it's only 15 minutes. But I do have a unit that is a collapsible that can go over your head, or my kids use it like on their arms if they have sprains and stuff like that. You do want, and just a disclaimer, please don't go on Temu and AliExpress and random places and buying these red light therapies, because there are going to be, you get what you pay for. I'm not saying you need to get the most expensive thing, but we do need to be careful what we purchase and where you purchase it from. So do your research. But red light and infrared, that's the key. A combination of red light and infrared is really powerful. And it's activating us, all of our DNA, which is why I do the full body one, so that I do my whole body at the same time.
Yeah.
Nice.
So interesting you said about the portals or the tears in your home, right? I don't know if I was on this show, was I talking about the stink bugs? I don't know. And back when I was in St. Louis, I had stink bugs in my house all the time. And it was like to the point where it was comical. I'm like, where are they coming from? And they're always in like the same spot. And I would just like get rid of them and they would be back and I'd bring them outside. I'm like, what is this? Like, it was driving me nuts. Well, one day I went to Jefferson Barracks, which is a military base, and I went past a no trespassing sign because I just wanted to see what was in this area. I'm like, why not? I'm just going to go check it out. A little adrenaline rush, you know. I went right in the middle of this, looked like a little quarry, and I started getting dive bombed with stink bugs. Like literally, they were just like hitting me to where it hurt, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I had to get out of there. And I finally looked it up, and it said stink bugs come as a sign of a warning sign, or dangers nearby or something. And I was like, "Well, that makes perfect sense," because I was just literally trespassing on a military base, essentially. And I sat with it in meditation, and I was like, well, what are they trying to warn me of in my home? And it became clear they're showing me where there's a portal in my home that's open. Right. And so then when I would see one, I would start to clear that portal, and then they went away. Well, that just happened here the other day in my house. A stink bug came out of nowhere, right in front of my face, and like it reminded me. But the day before, I was editing my documentary. I had it connected to my TV, and I swear this big giant moth came flying out of my TV. Like it looked like it either came out of my TV or from behind it. I don't know where it came from, but it was huge. And I watched it fly across my living room and just go behind this little shelf that I have standing against the wall that I hadn't hung up yet. And I never took my eyes off of it. And I went to move the shelf because I was going to bring it outside. And it was virtually gone. Like it had just gone, like came out of a portal and then went into like just through my living room. Like there was an interdimensional highway there or something. And then I saw the stink bug to identify the portal. And I was like, okay, so then I used that as a sign to, okay, we need to close this up. And then things have been all right. But it's the animals that are literally showing you where the terrors are. And that's like, when you said that, I'm like, that's specifically what's been happening to me.
Yeah. I had some animals warn me recently, like a month or so ago too, the coyotes out here. There's so many coyotes. And I heard, whenever I first moved out here, I heard like a native guide tell me as I was sitting outside, whenever you hear the coyotes, you are protected. And so I always think it's like it's just a beautiful, they're, you know, they go like every night. But there was one night I was feeling something real weird and sketchy here. And I was like, is that something? I did a little bit of clearing, but I was like, I still feel like there's something here. And I went outside and I heard the weirdest screech. It sounded like it could have been a coyote or something. I don't know, but it was just like this screech. And I knew immediately, I was like, they're warning me of something. So then I went in and I did like a full clearing and closing of any portals. But yeah, these portals in these dimensional tears, I've been getting that's been coming up a lot, especially since the Charlie Kirk incident happened, is when I feel like it really, really ramped up, where like these dimensional rifts or tears and just random stuff started coming through and all sorts of like weird wonky timeline stuff.
I agree with that, Lily. And I think it has a lot to do with the amping up of the technology. And I'm talking about the nefarious technology. And it's causing like the 5G towers amplifying and all of these high tech EMP pulses. And the animals are the ones that were telling me they're feeling like they're in microwaves. Like they're telling me in these sessions, I'm feeling like I'm in a microwave, and they're having major skin issues, major health issues. And they're warning us to be careful. And so I think that it's dying down. So I'm not saying this to scare people, because I actually feel like it's gotten less because our consciousness continues to rise. So it's really all about where we focus our consciousness, which is really important. But what I wanted to talk about really quickly, and I'm curious how you guys feel. So one common thing that I'm seeing more with my adult clients right now, and myself, and I'm not that old, by the way. Okay. I'm only 81. So not even 45 yet. So I'm not that old. But
81? You're 81 years old?
1981.
Oh, I thought you said I'm only 81.
No, from 1981. No.
She's in her earth being.
I am losing my memory. Like
that red light therapy is doing wonders, Sherri. For 81.
I know. No, listen. Stop it. Okay, yes. You guys are killing me.
She's trying to make a serious point. Okay.
I'm not selling red light therapy very well right now. No, listen, there's a reason why. There's a point here. So I'm losing my short-term memory to the point where my family's freaking out because I literally will not remember a conversation I had like 20 minutes ago. I'll go upstairs, I'll come down and I'll ask a question. And they're looking at me like, Mom, we literally just talked about this. Are you serious? And I'm like, oh my God, like I have no memory, no recall. And I've started to have a lot of sessions with people and my clients are saying the same thing. I cannot remember what I did yesterday. I can't remember what happened a few hours ago. I have no recollection of what my husband said we did yesterday afternoon, et cetera, et cetera. So I started to really like tune into this. And what I'm noticing is what I'm calling consciousness shifting. So because our densities of consciousness are shifting in and out of so many different timelines, and we are so much more multidimensional than ever before, I think we are popping in and out consciously. And so it's almost like driving the car and you don't remember the last 15 minutes of driving, but you somehow made it home and you're like, I don't even remember how I got here. It's like you're almost like tuning out what's actually happening in the present moment because our consciousness is tuning into a higher density of awareness. Mm-hmm. And we are not remembering what's happening in the present in the 3D. Is this making sense to you guys? So I feel like that's
100%.
That's Lily. That's Lily.
I know
every
I'm not
day.
going crazy, and it's not the red light.
That's
no,
Lily
for sure.
every day. Yeah,
100%.
Well, yeah. So that's interesting. I think that's true. That happens a lot, especially while driving. But also, I wonder too, and Tony Rodriguez gave me this thought because I experienced something like this a couple of years ago. If there's a parallel version of yourself living on a timeline, let's say in a space program or whatever it is, and that timeline is literally in the process of collapsing, and that soul fragment is getting ready to rehome and like be reintegrated, you actually will start experiencing brain fog. You won't be able to complete sentences. You're kind of just all a mess. You're dissociated until that version of you comes back, and then suddenly you like feel whole again, and it's like that timeline came to an end. Another version of you came back. So I think that could also be something to consider whenever we experience that, which still deals with an interdimensional frequency shift. It's still kind of the same theme.
I agree with both of those. I feel like I've received messages about that too, Tyler.
Yeah.
As you're integrating those other timelines collapsing and you're integrating, it can be, and you can experience bleed through too, aches and pains that aren't even like yours, this version of you, as you're reintegrating. Or rehoming. Yeah, I agree with that.
So
go ahead,
the last anomaly I wanted to bring up and see what you guys thought about it, because it came up in a session recently where I had a woman who felt a very strong connection to Africa. And in the session we learned, we were told that there are pocket civilizations all over the planet that are overlapping with the earth chakras. So the countries where the earth chakras are, predominantly in Africa was where she was connected to most. And I think that's the throat chakra. And what she was saying is that, or her higher self was telling us that Africa is one of the most attacked civilizations because they are one of the most indigenous of this planet. And that's why they're third world. And that's why they are, disconnected from humanity for a reason and shunned away. But they are one of the most advanced, most spiritual beings in existence on this planet, and they're holding space, and they're guardian species, just like the elephants who guard the land, which I've talked about in presentations I've done with Tyler's show and others. And there are pocket civilizations. And then the movie came to me again, another movie reference of Black Panther and Wakanda.
Black Panther. I was just going to say that. That's exactly what that is. Yeah.
Right now, like in real time, like in this exact very moment, there are pocket civilizations over Africa, over Peru and Bolivia, and over Mount Shasta and that near the root chakra, and all
Colombia,
over the world that are terraformed. And in not even just the fifth dimension, in the seventh dimension, that are coexisting, that are our ancestors, that are even for other versions of ourselves that are helping us evolve. And that could also be where our consciousnesses are escaping to, if you want to say, where then we forget where we are in the present moment. And this woman happened to be connected to Africa. And all of this came through in this one session with this woman. And it's like blew my mind. And I just wanted to bring that up to see if you guys have heard anything like that. And I'm not just talking about Tartaria. I'm talking about everywhere right now at the same time, overlapping in our reality, in a higher dimension, in these terraformed civilizations. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can share something on Mount Shasta since I have more experience with Mount Shasta, but I would agree with that 100%. I've seen like crystalline cities, higher dimensional cities above some of these places. Like the Grand Tetons, for example, I saw like this higher dimensional city kind of hovering above the mountains. I know somebody who's seen that above Mount Shasta, and then of course, Telos below Mount Shasta. But this past summer in Mount Shasta, I was leading a retreat, and I did a guided meditation for everybody to connect with the inner earth beings in Telos. And a being came forward who I had seen before and I've interacted with before. Her name's Aaliyah. She actually came to me like 2 or 3 years ago. I woke up one morning and her name came through so clear, and I could see her. I knew she was an inner earth being, and she worked with, like, I don't know if I call it the Akashic records, probably the Akashic records, quantum records. She was like a record keeper in Telos. And so she came through during this meditation I was leading. And then I realized, and Katie, my friend Katie, realized that's Katie. That's a version of her who is in inner earth right now. And we didn't know this for years. But she always like felt the connection with her. And then we realized in that moment that it was her. So that's a simultaneous lifetime that she is living in Telos, an inner earth version of her, a higher dimensional version that is coming to help in this reality. So that's my example. So I agree with that.
Yeah. And there, Jessica, did you want to say anything?
I don't, because I don't. Yeah, thank you though.
I just didn't want to take
I'll
up
just
too.
listen to you guys.
I just didn't want to take
on
over.
This one.
Well, for one, yeah, Sherri, Wakanda came to mind, Black Panther immediately, and then I'm watching that. I'm like, this is probably 100% fact that there's it's disguised in a pocket reality. It's like a bubble. It's an illusion. You don't see it. It's cloaked. And they were even talking about having a breakaway like civilization under the ground under Kansas in the United States. I'm like, what a weird place to pick. And actually, if you read the Sands of Times books, it talks about underneath of Kansas being one of these places, right? Anyway, there's a book called, it's not even out. I have a PDF of it because there was some argument with the publisher and the author or whatever, but it's called The Lost City of Manoa. And it's about my friend Nikki Anna Jones. Some of you may know her. Her friend wrote the book. He went down. He heard of this basically Atlantean outpost in Colombia that like a breakaway civilization of Atlantis that never died off. They just basically are hiding here in a pocket reality in a time bubble, basically. And the way it's described in the book is precisely how they describe it in the movie Black Panther. Like, it just looks like a typical mountain range, but if you pass through it, if you can pass through that, literally this whole other world opens up inside. And her friend, like, this guy spent like 7 years trying to find this place, and he would like meet people in town and stuff that were actually from that city, but it was like he had to like kind of prove himself to even gain access to it. They're not just going to let any wanderer in, right? And so he took it. He like devoted his life for 7 years, and never ended up finding it. But he still kept going and going. He gave up, and somebody else had heard about it, and they asked him to lead this tour, to guide them. He's like, can you guide us? You're the only one that knows these mountains and this jungle better than anybody. Can you lead us? And he said he would never do it again. He was done. He wasted 7 years of his life. It's not real. Well, he finally agreed to it for whatever, for money involved or whatever. And they all go on this whole journey. It's like weeks long. And they finally, or however long it is, to hike through this jungle, trek through the jungle to get to wherever this entrance is supposed to be. And this one guy from the group goes missing and they can't find him. This is a true story. This is not some story. The guy goes missing and they can't find him. They look everywhere for him. The main guy who had spent 7 years looking for this entrance to the city, he ended up finding the guy. He was standing in front of this like rock that looked like a mountain, and he said this door opened up and this essentially a giant came walking out of it with a different color skin and told him that you're looking for your friend. He's with us. You brought him here for a reason. He has been invited and he's not coming back with you. And he's like, well, how am I supposed to just believe you, or whatever? So can you show me and can you show me and let me know he's okay? So they granted him access in because they had known he had been looking. And I might be getting parts of the story wrong, but he goes inside through this rock wall, and he said it literally looked like there was no mountain there. Like the mountain was literally an illusion. And they walked through it, and it's a whole breakaway Atlantean civilization that looks like something from the future. And he wrote a whole book about it. And he was like, it's an amazing story. And the book's not even out. Like the guy has never even released the book. But my friend Nikki she wanted to go. She read the book and heard about it. So she booked a trip and went down there. And they didn't find the entrance because there's a number of reasons, but they went to where it was supposed to be, and her and two other people literally saw a unicorn, and like straight up unicorn, and like all three of them agree on it. It's not real. Like it was right there standing next to him, and she said it just appeared. Whoa. And she thinks that the unicorn showed up to let them know like this other reality exists. Like don't just give up on it, but like you can't enter now, basically. Wow. Interesting stuff. But that's right. That's in Colombia down south. So that's probably all over the planet too. Are these pocket realities like Wakanda?
Tyler, do you remember when you gave me a remote viewing target? You gave me a blind target of it was from the testimony of Billy Faye Woodard. I think. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
And his claim was that he was the liaison between him and some ET race or something.
Telos.
Yeah, Telos. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. And my remote viewing data kind of backed up what he said.
Yeah, it did 100%. Actually, I just gave you specifically. It was because he said he was brought down. I might have it wrong. It's either the 27th or the 37th level
27th.
below.
Yeah, 27th.
27th level below Area 51. So my target for you was just what's on the 27th level. But I never even told you that, but that's what I wanted to know. And you all the data lined specifically up with what he encountered. And basically, apparently, according to his testimony, is 27 levels below Area 51 is the tube system, and that takes you directly to Telos from Area 51. And that's where Billy was taken. He was brought in, fast-tracked through the Air Force, brought down there, and he was this liaison between the government and Telos. But the reason they had to have him, because he was technically born in Inner Earth and then dropped off on the surface, just like the Jerry Wills story, if you heard Jerry Wills' story. Like he was literally born in Hollow Earth and dropped off on the surface and grew up here with really no memory of that until he was older, right? But then he was fast-tracked to the military because the military needed the only person that they would talk to was one of their own. So it's a super fascinating testimony.
Wow.
I mean, and I think the reason I wanted to bring that up is because the reason this is coming up is because we truly are having timeline splits. There's a lot of timeline collapsing, but there's a lot of splitting occurring. So depending on the density of consciousness that you are plugged into, and it oscillates frequently. So, if you're a mom like me of 3 kids and there's kid drama going on, it's easy for me to dip back into the 3D drama and go into like lows and then pop back up. So like a lot of us are oscillating in and out, but for a majority of the time, whatever your density of consciousness is truly plugged into can really dictate, where your consciousness is connecting and what timeline. And I think the reason we're being made aware of these pocket civilizations is because whether or not that's where we're headed, we're merging nonetheless. So I think a lot of us are merging with these higher aspects of ourself. And just like Lily said, that other version of Katie, there could be another version of me overlapping in where I am right now or someplace else that I'm merging with that version of myself, which is also why my memory is not great here, because I am elsewhere. And so we truly are merging to a higher version of ourself. And there are a lot, and this is the last thing I want Jessica to talk about this, because I saved the best for last, because I love Bigfoot. Not as much as Jessica, but I'm a huge fan. And I have a lot of Bigfoot in my area. And I love them, the nice ones anyways. And you had an experience that you were mentioning beforehand, Jessica, yeah. And I think that the Bigfoot are coming forward, the good ones, to let us know too that that they're here to guide us, and they're ancient, wonderful indigenous beings. But you just had an experience, and can you share the experience with us real quick?
I can. Yeah. They actually allowed me to get some pictures this time too. I just did a show on Monday over on my channel. I saw somebody in the chat asking, what is my channel? It's the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube, y'all. Yeah, if you want to go check out some cryptid talk, go over, y'all check me out over there. But yeah, I took a super secret expedition trip this weekend to the Uwharrie National Forest in North Carolina. And I had not been to the Uwharrie National Forest yet, but some of my research friends, that's their stomping grounds. And some of my friends actually have documented Bigfoot families out there, from them having children, like little babies, Bigfoots, to being full-grown Bigfoots. That's how long he's been doing research out there. And so he hosted me, and we had a little team that went out there over the weekend, and we did some of our normal tricks where we go out and we hike around during the day, and then we go build a campfire somewhere like away from our base camp, and we sit around and we let them follow us. And so when it gets dark, we have a campfire, they surround us. And so we were able to, they followed us to this little campsite, a satellite camp is what I like to call it. And there was eye glow. We call it self-illuminating eye glow all around us. Over to the side, there were at least 2 to 3 Bigfoot, I guess, that we could see. Some with like orangish colored eye glow. Most of them had white eye glow. And we got into these, I had like an existential crisis, okay, because we're trying to figure out, what's making their eye glow? What is a Bigfoot exactly? I've been doing this since 2011. I've been boots on the ground, field researching Bigfoots and dogmen and whatever else is out there. And so I've had some really interesting conversations when it comes to red eye glow and eye shine and all that. And it has gotten so out of control, y'all. It's not just, organic, beings of this earth. Now we're into like cyborg cryptids and ET Bigfoot combos and reptilian Bigfoots and all that. It is just, like I said, it's out of control. But I had a wonderful time. And it was lovely that I finally was able to get some pictures. We got some wonderful video. We had cameras set up around our base camp, and we had some tree peekers, as I like to call it. And that's where they come up in the middle of the night and they peek around from behind trees. And we have eye shine and stuff. My team's been going through a bunch of video and audio recordings. We have a lot of it. This trip, they actually allowed us to get a lot of documentation. So they're here. They've welcomed us. And I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
Well, you had some photos too, right? So people can go to your channel and see the pictures that you had.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I did show some of my pictures on Monday. So the Monday show, it's actually titled Bigfoot or Something Else, Aliens Among Us. That was the name. That's what I titled it, because there's some things that the Bigfoots are able to do that are so supernatural. I like to call it the X factor. Within the Bigfooting and cryptid community, there's a divide between flesh and bone camp and then the woo camp. And I'm woo camp and flesh and bone. So I'm just a combination. I think it's everything. There's definitely an X factor an X factor, as my team calls it. And that means like supernatural abilities, telepathic abilities. That's why I'm actually trained in remote viewing, because the head of our research team had already been doing research for decades before I joined the team. And they'd already established that Bigfoot exists. They had already gone to the next level of like communicating with them. And one of the best ways to do that is telepathically, we found.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you see the new documentary, Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Legend? Yeah. So with David Politis.
Oh, yeah. I've seen part of it. Actually, a good friend of mine who's in the chat, Jane, I think Gerald might be in here too, Midwest Night Watchers and Chiro Sounds. Yes, I was sent that video. So thank you to you guys out there.
Well, what I would say about that is I think it's the best one I've ever seen, because it takes it seriously as far as the interdimensional aspect of Sasquatch, and which we know David Politis, right? Like he's either a paid informant or whatever it is. But it's almost like he got the green light to cover Sasquatch in a way that needs to be covered. And they came to the conclusion at the end of the film, they didn't debunk anything. They said the only possible explanation is that these are either extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings, and they can walk between worlds. And they talk about, they interview all the people that had the testimonies where they've seen them walk through portals or vanished in front of them. And it was, I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually, and it's a big major film, they're actually doing it. Like all this time we've been watching the same Bigfoot documentary over and over, and finally they cover it from a very level-headed approach too, and they come to the conclusion like this is it, like these are interdimensional beings here we're dealing with. So I was proud. I was like, couldn't ask for anything more from a big documentary like that. So
well, I want to give credit to Ronald Moorhead, actually. He wrote a fantastic book. It's called Quantum Bigfoot. It's my favorite book ever written about Bigfoot. And if I were to write a book, which I will, but if he beat me to it, I would have written about exactly what he wrote. And it's about them having interdimensional qualities, let's just say, and having that X factor. So Ronald Moorhead, he is famous for the Sierra sounds. If you guys have ever heard of the Sierra sounds, and he and R. Scott Nelson as well, who is a linguist who
he's
transcribed.
They're in the film. I mean, they're in the film too. So
yes, yeah. So yeah, it's people have been doing this research for a while. give a huge shout out to David Politis. He actually, I refer to him a lot because I cover the missing persons clusters in our national parks, and I do a lot of my research in national parks. So if you guys aren't familiar with that, please go check out Missing 411, the series, and even his UFO connection. That was
really good too. And my favorite part was that guy was taken up onto the craft.
In a cube.
But when he got on the craft, there was elk up on the craft. Like they had been abducting the elk too. And they ended up putting him back because his blood types, what did he have? He had something was going on with him where his blood wasn't compatible with what they needed him for. So they put him back. But they were planning on like using him for his blood. And do you remember specifically what the issue was with him?
I don't remember exactly. For some reason in my mind, I was thinking that he couldn't have kids or something. And I thought that's what it was, but it probably was blood. I don't remember that. But, I made the connection because from the first time I ever spoke publicly about my Bigfoot research, I talked about the cube that my team had encountered out in the meadow. We have a project we work on called the Meadow Project at an undisclosed location. It's very similar to Skinwalker Ranch out in Utah, but this is a place in the South. And we had a cube that showed up one night, and it was, you couldn't see it with your naked eye. You could only see it through a thermal or a FLIR night vision devices. It had it was just a temperature change in the environment, but it was a cube. And two of our teammates were sent to go check it out, and they got up to it and their heat signatures disappeared. And they said that the environment changed. And so that was back in, gosh, I want to say 2015, 2017, something like that. So it's been a while since that happened, but something we kind of kept near and dear. We didn't talk about it publicly for a while because we didn't know exactly what it was, but we came to the conclusion it had to be like a portal. And but then they came out with that documentary, and I'm like, well, maybe it was a spacecraft, okay? And it was kind of a suspicion. Like we figured, spacecraft portal. I don't know, tomato. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, so somebody put the name of the film, American Sasquatch Man, Myth or Monster. That's what it is, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I missed that. Oh, is this what it was?
Yeah.
Yes, I highly recommend it, y'all.
Yeah,
Jessica,
go watch
you should come out to Sedona. You should come out to Sedona with your gear.
I will. I would love to. I'll plan on it.
I couldn't imagine what you would capture out here with your gear.
Oh,
You know what? That needs to
you should
happen.
come out here with her gear, Bradshaw Ranch.
oh my God, I'm there.
I think one of my bucket list items is to go on a field research with Jessica, but like to like a safe place though, because I'm a little chicken baby. So like I don't want to go anywhere too scary. So you gotta like take me somewhere like juvenile.
Oh my gosh. It's really, I mean, maybe I'm just so used to it that I don't get scared usually.
Yeah.
And it's just so wonderful. It's exhilarating. It really is exhilarating being out there. I think you would enjoy it no matter where you went.
No, I'm coming with you at one point. I'm coming with you. I don't know how all of you guys are doing on time, but I wanted to bring up one last thing. And actually, I'd love to get Lily's thought on this because of the Red Rock. But one of the things that's been coming through, I mentioned in the beginning of this, is Gaia has been coming through a lot of the sessions through my clients with messages about how our bodies are changing and how those that are activating and awakening and in alignment with evolution, our evolution as a species, and our densities of consciousness are arising, are the activation and the light codes within us, especially dependent on where we live. Our toroidal fields are starting to shift and change depending on where you live. And we are essentially, I'm using the word proxy because I can't come up with a better word right now, but we're like proxy or conduits, our bodies, utilizing our bodies as conduits or proxies within our toroidal field, bringing in these light codes that are different for everybody and vibrating out to help re-terraform this planet, because that's what we need to do, is re-terraform. And everywhere you live seems to have different toroidal field activations occurring. So I'm near the ocean, so it seems to be a different energy. But I've heard, Lily, and I guess you, Tyler, too, the Red Rock of like Sedona, New Mexico seems to be the most intense. And so since both of you guys have just moved there, I'm curious how you feel about that, like going on hikes and stuff. Like, what are you feeling?
Well, I'll share this. So we left, me and Tyler, we left just for a couple of days over New Year's. And whenever we were coming back to Sedona, you could feel it physically. We both felt it at like the same time.
As if you're driving through a bubble.
It does. It felt like we were driving through a bubble, and all of a sudden you feel all of this energy, and almost the energy can be so intense in Sedona sometimes. It almost feels kind of dense, actually, because there's just so much energy here and the magnetism of the rocks. And I don't know, Tyler, do you know more of the science of what's going on in the rocks? But there's a lot of crystals in the rocks as well, and it's causing like this magnetism. And then you have the portals and the vortexes. But yeah, I would say that physiologically, we felt it very visceral.
Like your energy body is changing and shifting in a different way versus like when you were in Illinois, like you're different.
Definitely. Yeah, I would say that. And me and my roommate were just talking about this recently. We've been a bit exhausted lately, and we were talking about, we feel like we're bringing in all of this energy and then kind of dispersing it out through, like where our bodies are like conduits and kind of anchoring in these frequencies into the Sedona area. So I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, coming here to Sedona, it's definitely so we were in actually Missouri, St. Louis, not Illinois, is where.
So, yeah, I don't know why I said Illinois.
Well, it's on the border.
Yeah, it's right there on the border. That's where the conference was and stuff. But absolutely leaps and bounds better than that energy, by far. Like it's kind of like you break out of that energy in St. Louis. It's very dense and it holds you back, and it's almost like designed that way. It keeps people on this hamster wheel, you know, and then you kind of you have to either jump or you just get stuck. So coming out here was a breaking free from that, but it's an entirely different thing. And what I realized is, so this is probably one of the most significant places in the world as far as what actually happened here historically that's been erased from our history. If you look at the United States, the entire Southwest actually looks like a scar, like it was maybe once this utopian civilization. They say even maybe possibly like Jerusalem, and like all the Bible stories actually happened here and not the Middle East. It's like to throw us off, right? And it's just very, very significant what this place used to be. Egypt, even, like there's a lot of Egyptian history, and it looks like it was hit with a direct energy weapon. Quite literally, it looks like a scar on the map. It's green, and then this scar, like something just destroyed it and erased the history, melted the rock to where you can't even decipher what it used to be. I think it was biblical, like it was significant. And then the energy was still here, right? Whatever energy is occurring here is extremely potent. And whenever it was taken over and destroyed, this is one of the most beautiful places, but also one of the most dangerous places because military has set up shop here. There's many military bases, intelligence agencies. They have hijacked the frequency in a number of ways, and they're basically exploiting that energy and weaponizing it in any way that they can. And that's why some people come here and they just can't handle it. They'll claim they're getting targeted and tracked because it's happening. But also, it can be, if you get through that, it can be absolutely transformational whenever you're able to tap into the pure potent energy that's been untampered with. You can still find those pockets, and then you can have breakthroughs out here. So I think like when certain people are guided out here, it's specifically for a job, like it's a mission, right? Like for the planet though. And like this place will test you like you've never been tested before. But if you get through that, you can experience something, and it can be transformational, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. And a lot of people don't make it here. Like I was talking to some locals, they say the average person that moves here lasts 3 to 5 years, and they can't do it. They gotta go. So this place is powerful, and I think they're like it's ground zero for some sort of spiritual war in some aspect here. And I think that the dark is, you know, kind of clinging on. Specifically, when I moved out here in June, and it was the clearest skies I've ever seen. I thought it was amazing. There's no chemtrails. No chemtrails ever until my birthday. I remember because it was my birthday. I'm like, oh, of course, what a birthday present. The sky was full of chemtrails, October 26th. And since then, they have been hitting us since October 26th so hard with chemtrails out here. Even the people who've lived here for years said they've never seen anything like it. They know that there's a breakthrough about to happen, and they're doubling down on these chemtrails to make people sick, poison them, keep them in consumerism mentality, whatever it is, just keep them doing things that are actually, you know, feeding that matrix so they can cling on to it. But, you know, it's just push and shove. And I think it's a very powerful time, not just here, but on the entire planet. And, you know, who knows what's coming in April, big planetary shift, I think. So there's a lot to look forward to. So if anybody is experiencing the dark thoughts or the hard times, just like keep in mind, like that's what the end of this war looks like. This is your test. Like this is your test. Like you have to make it through that.
Yeah. I will add one other thing that Sedona is like, it's an amplifier. It's a massive amplifier, and things manifest. They can manifest here very, very quickly. So you also coming out here can also be kind of like a test to, I don't know if I want to say master your mind, but just become a master of yourself and how the universe works, because things can, the veil is very, very thin. And I think there are pockets within Sedona too, where it's like more thin, but it really teaches you how to work with that energy, being an amplifier and an accelerator. So you can go through very high highs and very low lows here. Mm-hmm. So it kind of it's like master training, I feel like, honestly, living out here. Some people might come out here and not experience any of that. Maybe it just depends on where you are in your journey and the energies going on. But yeah.
or how sensitive you are to it. I think
Right.
like that's it's true here in Florida and a lot of places. People are driven to where they're needed, and I know I'm supposed to be here. And of course, as soon as I moved here, they had record not only hurricanes, that people that I've said that have lived here their whole life have never seen hurricanes this bad, but now there are tornadoes that are like they've never seen. So obviously we know there's some warfare going on and some manipulation, because they don't want these highly activative sacred spaces to be inhabited by the higher consciousness beings. So they're going to try to kick us out or try to get us away. And that's why Tyler and Lily are saying, you know, it's sink or swim in Sedona. You either make it or you don't. And that's very true for a lot of Florida as well. And I think in a lot of holy, I don't want to use holy, I don't mean to sound religious, but sacred spaces, for sure. But to end this on a positive note, like we always like to, because these things are never about talking about negativity or to instill fear in the collective. That's never my intention. Hopefully people know that by now. But I truly believe knowledge is power. My son taught me that when he was 7 years old. He said that if he could have any superpower in the world, it would be knowledge. And he is the most intelligent, smart person I just know. And he's a big teacher of mine. And he's 13, and I told him he's outsmarted me now. Like he's like literally like I can't have a conversation with him. He's way too smart. But he's just out until he's just way far out. But the point is, knowledge is power. So the more we know, and that's how we have clarity. That's how we can shift our consciousness. That's how we can focus our energy on what we choose to focus our energy on, as opposed to being manipulated into focusing our attention through mind hijacking into what I tell my kids, Vecna's mind, because it's a good analogy for them. It's a way for them to understand. So how can you exert your power? How can we put ourselves in a place of power so that we are in control, so that we collapse these negative timelines? And not only that, but we enhance and activate this higher timeline. And so, there's a lot of good coming. I think that 2026 is going to be a mixed bag of highs and lows. And I think it has a lot to do with our density of consciousness and what we believe and what we're willing to resist and what persists within us, and how much we're willing to heal and let go, and the judgment. It's going to be different for everybody. So I'm curious if you guys, each of you, have any last words, things you want to say, and then also let everybody know how they can get in contact with you. I know everybody already knows you guys, but just for fun.
For fun, I'll go first.
Gentlemen first.
So yeah, I mean, just thank you for having us on. This was actually really an intriguing conversation, and I do agree, knowledge is power, and understanding what you're up against is really crucial, because that if you don't really know the lengths that they'll go to and the depth of this spiritual war, then you can easily fall right into one of their traps, right? And then become, complacent and complicit in some agenda. You don't even know what you could be participating in or how you could have been pulled off track unless you're hyper aware. And the only way you can be hyper aware is to have that knowledge. So especially covering it the way we did without fear. Like, I think this was very lighthearted, because there are ways to cover this information that can leave you almost feeling traumatized. So there's even a healthy balance in covering this information. And I think that we kind of, it's a good group to do that. I think we did that well. So thank you for facilitating this, Sherri. And if anybody wants to join us in Hawaii, we have a conference coming up in Hawaii. I would love to give that a quick shout out. April 20th. There's like about 20 spots left. So if you're interested in joining us on the Big Island, we would love to have you out there. We're going to be swimming with the dolphins and whales, getting out on a boat, Volcano National Park, some sacred sites, plus the speakers, vacation/retreat in Hawaii. And you can find the information at journeytotruth.online, which is right there on my screen. And we'd love to see you out there. And thank you so much for having me, Sherri, and whoever wants to go next.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Do you want me to go? Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me tonight and letting me join you guys. Sherri, this has been awesome. Lily, Tyler, I've really enjoyed this. And, I've actually, when you said we were going to talk about Stranger Things and the season finale and all that kind of stuff, I actually, like I told you, I went and I watched all the episodes. I watched most of them, actually. I didn't watch all of them. I watched most of them. And I'm really happy right now that the disclosure, the things that we've been talking about for years now, and the whistleblowers that have come forward they're all friends of ours, ourselves. We've been putting this disclosure out there to the public for quite a while, and now it's out there in the form of a pop culture show, of course, but it's a step forward. And talking about dark stuff, and then putting a light, shining the light on it. That's what I do. and people are always telling me, they're like, man, you talk about the darkest stuff, but you make it sound so nice sometimes. And it's just easier. It's easier to kind of swallow, if you know what I mean. If, I'm out there hunting and investigating monsters, like real monsters. What I don't think they're monsters, but people call them monsters. And I've still got, I do it with a smile on my face, and I'm cheery, and I'm here, and it is what it is, y'all. If I can do it, y'all can do it, and I promise you that. But yeah, I think we've got good things coming, great things coming. I always tell my audience, don't ever live in fear. Okay, don't live in fear. Just live in awareness. Okay, live in awareness. Know that these things exist. It's good to have some backup now. The disclosure is here. It's coming out. We are the disclosure, y'all. And so, yes, you guys can find me over on my YouTube channel. It's called The Cryptid Huntress. And you can go find all my information on my website, thecryptidhuntress.com. And thanks again for letting me join you guys tonight.
Yes, you were born for this. Whoever said that.
Yeah.
I was literally thinking that when you were saying, I was like, you're cut out for it. Yeah. And we are going to arrange one of these expeditions with you. It has to happen.
We're doing it.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
I love Tyler and Lily and everyone else, but like, no joke, Jessica's like one of my favorite people on the planet. I just freaking love you so much. I just love your attitude. The fact that you look like my mom trips me out. One of these times I'm going to show a picture on one of these. It trips me out. You're like her twin. But like, you're just like, your attitude, like everything about you. I love it. I love it so much.
Well, thank you. Well, I love you guys too. And tell your daughter I said, hey. Okay.
Yes, tell Aramis I said hi too.
And by the way, Tyler, you're her best. You guys are best friends, so.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Long lost best friend.
Go ahead.
She's so sweet.
To circle it back to Stranger Things, I wanted to bring up something that really stuck out to me last season, and they touched on it again this season when dealing with like the darkness of Vecna and the mind games and all of that, controlling the mind. How Max got out of that last season was through frequency, through song. They would have her play the song that made her feel good. And I was like, wow, that's frequency. They're showing frequency. It's like a metaphor for vibration, and it, as well as love, what made her feel love, what brought her joy. And they touched on that again in this season. It's love. That's how you beat it. So I just wanted to circle back out to that. So if you are experiencing any of these things or having a hard time, like love and frequency is the answer.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just thought that was also another disclosure that they sprinkled in there. But thank you so much for having me. This was a really fun conversation, touched on some really cool and very important topics. If anybody wants to check out my channel, Lily Nova Starseed, and my website, which is right there, lilynovacontact.com.
And, that reminds me, just a great tool to end with is we interviewed somebody in the past that we were talking about dismantling and overcoming this mind control. And this guy literally sells this CD that basically plays this tone that apparently blocks it out. And it's just all frequency, right? And then he also said you could either play just music, play very specific music, like the 432 or whatever it is. You can just play a song loud. If you're experiencing some dark thoughts or something, play music. It'll break that spell. It'll interrupt that wave pattern. And also singing a song, whistling or singing a song out loud yourself can actually break that mind control. It can disrupt it. So it's all frequency, right? But it can be done simpler than you think, and we forget about that, including myself. This is a great reminder for me too.
Yeah, well, remember, we're not taught this in school, so we should be, and that's what I'm here to do, is to make sure children learn this at a young age so that they know the power of music. And like Jessica said last time, where are the bells, y'all? I can't talk like you. I wish I had your accent, but last time she was like, we need, where are all the bells at, y'all? Like the bells work too.
Yeah, bells, 100% bells work. Yeah.
Oh my God, I had such a great time with you guys. My cat had a good time with you guys apparently too. He was all up in it. Sorry, he kept showing you his rear end. I think he was trying to show off. I don't know, but anyways, I hope all of you guys enjoyed this evening. Thank you guys for joining me as guests, Tyler, Jessica, and Lily. I really appreciate your support and coming on and being with me here. And maybe we'll do a part 3 sometime next month. Who knows? We'll see how it goes.
I think we should. I think we should. It's fun.
We'll just keep talking about different movies and anomalies and crazy things that are happening, because I think it helps people to have other, like, just to talk about these things.
Right.
I have to show this comment. This guy just said hairless cat butt coming soon to a theater. And that's how we're gonna end the show. Good night, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye. Good night. Stargate. Victor came in with Stargate. Yeah.